At this point, the Earth's ecosystem has completely collapsed, humanity struggles to survive in despair, the gene sequences of numerous plants and animals have mutated, the living environment is extremely harsh, mutated creatures have taken over the entire planet. For example, there are tree people that have evolved to breathe with lungs, fireflies that move at speeds comparable to bullets. Even moss is transformed into terrifying monsters that feed on blood. The environment poses a severe threat to carbon-based life forms. How should the remaining humans deal with this crisis? The story takes place in a future world. Humanity is fully engaged in developing genetic technology to reverse the dire ecological situation. However, the developments have exceeded everyone's expectations. Humanity's ignorant actions have unexpectedly triggered an exacerbation of the Earth's ecological environment. As a result, the world has been torn into two extremes: wealthy individuals who possess advanced technology, live in cities called castles. They continue to live lavish lifestyles reminiscent of the pre-catastrophe era. Meanwhile, the poor can only survive alone in the desolate and barren wastelands. 13-year-old Vesper can be considered a genius in genetics. She not only has to navigate through the ruined wastelands in search of food, but also must be constantly vigilant for the wanderers and bandits that may appear at any moment. Fortunately, her father, Ernst, is by her side. He was once a soldier in the castle, and he was unfortunately injured during a mission, becoming fully paralyzed and was abandoned by the rulers. Now, he has only a mechanical head floating in midair, relying on biosensors to perceive the outside world. His physical body is sustained by the food that Vesper scavenges. Though he is disabled, he can use technology to keep an eye on the surroundings at all times and escort his daughter Vesper. The two struggle for survival in this apocalyptic world. One day, while Vesper was out searching for food, she unexpectedly discovered a colorful meatworm. Vesper treasured it as if it were a precious find. Then she hurried back to their secret base. This place is hidden in a cold and damp area. Various strange creatures grow all around. Vesper opens a sealed space. The room is filled with experimental vessels. She placed the meatworm in a bottle and began to observe it, trying to find out the mysteries of survival from it. Suddenly, the sound of metal clashing came from outside. Her father controlled a drone to go check it out first. Vesper quickly stored away the filter and followed closely behind. Ernst informed her that the person was just a pilgrim and posed no danger. Vesper, unable to contain her curiosity, stepped forward. This was because her mother had once been a part of the pilgrims. They usually wandered among the ruins, collecting various relics of the past. No one knows why they do this, nor where those scraps eventually end up. Some speculate that it may be caused by some kind of special genetic virus, which causes infected individuals to lose their voices, prompting them to silently join the ranks of the pilgrims. A year ago, Vesper's mother was one such case. After losing her voice, she resolutely embarked on the pilgrimage. Ernst was well aware of the mystery surrounding the pilgrims. He didn't want Vesper to have too much contact with it, urging her to leave quickly. But Vesper was at an age filled with curiosity, wanting to uncover the truth about the pilgrims. However, when Vesper returned home, the scene before her instantly felt ominous. The scorpion tail flower, meant to safeguard their home, had withered. The front door was covered in signs of damage. It was clear that the house had been ransacked. Ernst used his body to sense the situation inside the house, but unfortunately, his weakened state yielded no results. Vesper clenched her military knife and entered the house. The room where her father was located was safe and sound. However, the oil pipe used for generating electricity was damaged. Vesper put in a lot of effort to repair the severed oil pipe, only to be horrified to find that the bacteria that parasitized the oil, which were used to generate electricity, had all lost their vitality. The power was cut off. The biosensor connecting to her father's brain stops working. Even more deadly problems follow in quick succession. With the power outage, the oxygen system also fails. Without oxygen, her father won't even survive the night. In desperation, Vesper has to seek help from her uncle Jonas. Even though she despises him greatly, it turns out that Jonas is a local wealthy man. He owns the largest stronghold nearby, and controls the channel for trading food and seeds with the castle. The reason Vesper despises him is that the price for Jonas's trade with the castle is the blood of children inside the stronghold. The most numerous population consists of underage children. As soon as Vesper steps into the stronghold, she hears a piercing cry. In the center of the crowd, a pallid Yuger is injured on its right leg by a collapsed iron frame. But in Jonas's stronghold, what awaits it is not treatment, but death. Jonas hands a dagger to the boy on duty. Under his oppressive rule, the boy has to comply. The Yuger is a service product created by the castle, designed to have no self-awareness, and only able to listen to the master's orders, laboring endlessly. Even so, they are still capable of feeling pain. When faced with death, they can also experience fear. In the next moment, this Uyghur makes an astonishing move. It reaches out and pushes the boy down. This action draws hearty laughter from the crowd around them, but in Jonas's eyes, the spectators before him are no different from lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Unable to endure the crowd's laughter, the boy angrily rises and holds down the Uygur's head, plunging the dagger into the interface on its back. Before Jonas gives the order to stop, he can only mechanically repeat the stabbing motion. At this moment, the onlookers' expressions turn serious, and this is exactly the effect Jonas desires. He suppresses the complex human nature with fear in this apocalyptic world. After the crowd disperses, Vesper steps forward to express her intentions, but Jonas doesn't care about family ties, even towards his own brother. He insists on demanding corresponding payment, so Vesper walks into the room and skillfully takes off her clothes. Fortunately, the dreaded thing doesn't occur. Jonas only draws some of her blood, but he goes back on his word and refuses to provide the necessary bacteria. Jonas even kicks Vesper out. Reluctantly, Vesper goes to the backyard. She clears a hidden gap under the electric fence and crawls into the stronghold's backyard. Vesper plans to stealthily infiltrate Jonas's laboratory. Her father is in imminent danger. She must obtain the electricity-generating bacteria today. At this moment, a swarm of mosquito-like biological ships flies through the sky. It is the mosquito unit sent by the castle to collect blood. Seizing the opportunity, Vesper runs toward the warehouse storing supplies, but she runs into the boy who drew her blood earlier in the day. Vesper steps back in panic. The boy walks straight past her as if he didn't see her. Vesper hurriedly enters the warehouse and collects enough bacteria. Just as she is about to leave, she discovers Jonas's house for cultivating food. Inside, the seeds and seedlings are being exposed to ultraviolet light. Vesper can't suppress her inner desire. She digs open a grid and retrieves the seeds buried inside. Because Vesper has been dedicated to experimentation, trying to crack the restrictions set on the seeds by the castle, she hopes to gain the opportunity to enter the castle and enter in her father's hard life. Driven by desire, she takes something that doesn't belong to her for the first time. On her way back, Vesper witnesses a ship spewing black smoke roar past overhead. Although Vesper is filled with confusion, she has no time to pay attention to it. Because her father is still struggling on the brink of life and death, she must get back quickly. Soon, the electricity in the house was restored, and her father was out of danger. The next day, Vesper desperately ran in the direction where the spaceship had fallen. Sure enough, she found a woman dressed elegantly in the forest. The woman was in a coma with a serious leg injury, and her body was covered by the mutated plants nearby. Vesper sees that the woman still has breath. She hurriedly tears off the thickest tentacle from her neck and brings the woman back home. Then she uses her cultivated fungal mucus to dress the woman's wounds. When the woman awakens, she finds herself in an unfamiliar environment. The woman tries to get out of bed, but the pain in her leg causes her to lose her balance instantly. She falls to the ground. With a dull thud, Vesper rushes over after hearing the noise. After a conversation, Vesper learns that the woman's name is Leia, and that she comes from a castle filled with the wealthy. Leia's aircraft, which she was on with her father, suddenly lost control and crashed into this jungle during flight. Leia looks at Vesper with hope, pleading with her to help search for her father in the jungle. She promises a generous reward, and even mentions that she could help Vesper enter the castle. Vesper thinks for a moment and ultimately nods in agreement. However, she states that the forest at night is fraught with dangers. They can only set out the next morning. As night falls, Vesper brings in a bowl full of thin porridge, and specially sprinkles a double portion of mealworms in front of Leia. However, Leia looks at the wriggling worms in the bowl and feels nauseous. It's simply hard to swallow. At this moment, Ernst in the room suddenly starts convulsing violently without warning. Vesper feels frantic with worry. She rushes over, trying to hold her father down and calling his name, but it is all in vain. Ernst's convulsions become more intense. Vesper's eyes redden, her voice choked with tears, not knowing what to do. At this critical moment, Leia quickly walks over and then closes her eyes tightly. After a while, her lips become rosy. Then, she leans down and gently kisses Ernst's lips. At this moment, a miraculous scene occurs. The previously convulsing Ernst becomes calm, then he slowly drifts off to sleep. However, Leia, as if she had exhausted all her strength, leaned weakly against the door and gasped for breath. The next day, Vesper and her father can't help but talk about what happened last night as they leave the house. Ernst doesn't understand either. What method Leia used to calm himself down is still a mystery. Using the scattered ship parts on the ground, Vesper quickly finds the crash site of the aircraft. Just as she is about to open the cockpit, a voice suddenly calls her name from behind. Turning around, she sees it is Jonas. It turns out Jonas also saw the falling ship last night, so he brought his subordinates to search for it. Vesper forces herself to appear calm, pretending she discovered the site by chance, but due to her previous act of stealing the seeds, she lacks confidence in front of her uncle and avoids his gaze. But Jonas has no time to pay her any mind. He immediately orders the children to open the hatch. Inside the cockpit, an elderly man appears before everyone. This man is Leia's father. Seeing that he is weak and barely breathing, Jonas actually reaches out to cover the man's mouth and nose. Vesper tries to stop him but is pushed to the ground by Jonas. In this cruel apocalyptic world, Jonas has become ruthless. Killing is just a daily routine for him. In the broken cockpit, Jonas discovers a ribbon. From this, he deduces that there should be others in the aircraft. He once again presses Vesper on how she found this place, and he demands that she look him in the eyes and answer. Just as Vesper nervously doesn't know how to respond, Ernst hurriedly interrupts Jonas's interrogation, explaining that Vesper is just scared of him. Then he quickly pulls her away. Vesper is filled with inner turmoil, not knowing how to explain to Leia later. Ernst proposed to keep this matter a secret for the time being, to prevent Leia from acting impulsively and doing something dangerous. After borrowing the neighbor's transceiver tomorrow to inform the castle of the plane crash, they would then tell her the truth. When they return home, Vesper, with a guilty expression, tells Leia that she didn't find anything. Ernst says he will borrow the receiver from the neighbor tomorrow morning to report the crash of the aircraft to the castle. Leia agrees without objection, then she walks a bit dejectedly toward the bed to rest. Vesper notices that Leia's walking posture has returned to normal. Curious, she lifts the fungal membrane attached to Leia's leg. To her surprise, she finds that the wound has healed. Leia is equally astonished. She didn't expect that Vesper had mastered synthetic biology. Vesper's lips curl up in a smile. Confidently, she declares that her abilities go far beyond this. She then takes Leia into the dense jungle. They finally arrive at a mysterious place. Here, various forms of plants grow, each seeming to embody life. They even seem to understand human words. It turns out that all these plants come from Vesper's hands. Leia can't help but marvel at the sight. She says that if this technology were introduced to the castle, it would definitely cause a stir worldwide. Feeling flattered by the praise, Vesper's mood improves greatly. After returning home, the two chat happily. Vesper pulls out an ancient book and points to the cat illustration in it. Curiously, she asks Leia if she has ever seen one. Then they discuss other animals that have become extinct. Next, Vesper raises a question that has troubled her for a long time. Why is the castle not open to the poor? Leia thinks for a moment and gives her answer. It might be due to a lack of resources. The next day, while the mosquito team comes to collect blood, Vesper heads to Jonas's stronghold once again, because this is the only place nearby with a receiver that can communicate with the castle. Ernst maneuvers the drone to scout ahead. Vesper follows closely behind, sneaking into the stronghold. As she passes the corner of the warehouse, a voice suddenly calls out to her. Feeling anxious, Vesper slowly steps into the food-filled warehouse. Jonas is reaching into the drone, stirring things around randomly. Jonas claims that there is an issue with the gyroscope. He is helping to fix it. He then questions Vesper about why she intruded into his farm. Vesper feigns calmness, explaining that she has come to retrieve the blood from their unfinished transaction. Jonas ignores her response, then shifts the topic to the seeds that went missing a few days ago. He says that the boy who guarded the warehouse has been kicked out of the stronghold, leaving him alone in the forest to reflect on the meaning of family. Jonas calls his niece to help hold the drone down. Seeing Vesper in a panicked state, he changes the subject again, asking about the whereabouts of another passenger. Jonas is like a demon who can see into the hearts of others. In front of him, Vesper has no secrets to hide. Finally, Vesper can no longer bear the pressure. As Jonas gets up, she seizes the chance to grab the drone and escape. After running into the woods, Vesper discovers that the drone has malfunctioned. Ernst's voice becomes choppy and overlapping. Its flying capabilities are severely affected. Just as she is about to pick up the drone, she sees the boy who once helped her under a tree root. However, at this moment, the boy is lifeless. Suddenly, a whistle sound comes from nearby. Vesper hurriedly picks up the drone, wanting to leave, but she is caught by the approaching people and pressed to the ground. Vesper struggles fiercely but is unable to break free from the grip of the three boys. The drone, carrying her father's wool, also falls to the ground. She is powerless to do anything. At this moment, another boy walks over from the distance. They all belong to Jonas's subordinates. One of them pulls out an electric branding iron. Ignoring Vesper's struggles, he presses the iron onto her hand. Once branded with this mark, it signifies that she will become Jonas's private property in the future. After achieving their goal, the children disperse, leaving Vesper alone, kneeling on the ground and crying. Upon returning home, Vesper heads straight to her father's room. She retrieves tools from under the bed, preparing to fix the drone. Leia notices something is off and approaches to ask, but she is tightly embraced by Vesper. She fears she will never be able to fix the drone again. Leia softly comforts her, assuring her that there will definitely be a way. She also suggests going to find her father for help. Drenched in sorrow, Vesper unintentionally reveals the truth about Leia's father's death. Leia, in disbelief, insists on seeing the body, so Vesper takes her to the riverbank. They see father floating in the water. Leia stumbles toward the river. Grief renders her cries voiceless. Seeing that she is reluctant to leave, Vesper jumps into the river and pulls her back up, continuously comforting her. At this moment, Vesper notices a 10-centimeter cut on the back of Leia's neck. As she reaches to touch it, dozens of tiny tendrils extend out. It turns out Leia is not human, but an intelligent Yog person. Floating in the water is not her father but Leia's creator, creating intelligent Yog people. In the castle is a serious crime. As a result, they are wanted by the castle, and plan to escape to another castle to live. Unexpectedly, the aircraft is attacked and crashes. Vesper realizes that Leia has been deceiving her all along. She's unable to bring herself and her father into the castle at all. With her dreams shattered, Vesper angrily pushes Leia away. Back home, Vesper tells Leia to leave quickly. She then approaches her father's bed to continue repairing the drone. As she turns a few screws, Ernst's voice comes through the drone again. His first words are an apology to his daughter. Seeing his daughter being bullied while he feels powerless, Vesper doesn't dwell on this matter, and instead tells her father about Leia's identity as a Yog. On the other side, the Yog, Leia, seems to have lost all meaning without her master. She takes out a dagger and pushes aside her hair, revealing the unique mark that belongs to the Yog people. That is her most sensitive area. It is also a fatal weakness for Yog people, but the outcome turns out to be contrary to her intentions. Just at this moment, Vesper hears a noise and rushes out immediately. She kicks the dagger out of Leia's hand, then pins Leia down tightly, fearing that she might take any extreme actions again. Without thinking, Vesper says, since her master is her reason for living, she will be Leia's master from now on. Upon hearing this, Leia sees a spark of light in her dim eyes. As if she has found the motivation to live again, she obediently follows her new master's instructions. Sitting quietly in the chair, Vesper is tending to Leia's wounds. Suddenly, a thought flashes through her mind. On a whim, she extracts a few drops of Leia's blood. Vesper is very curious about what makes this Yog so special. After some testing, Vesper unexpectedly discovers that Leia's blood contains a core DNA that doesn't belong to her. Furthermore, this core is in a locked state. Leia is completely unaware of this. Her previous master seldom revealed this information to her. Vesper tries to unlock this confinement but fails repeatedly. As a result, she becomes somewhat irritated. Leia gets up, sits on the bed, and picks up the wooden xylophone nearby. She softly says that she would play the xylophone beside her master while he worked, because she heard this could help people concentrate. Just as she finishes speaking, something magical happens. The melodious sound of the xylophone fills the air. It surprisingly resonates with the locked core. Each note is like a magical key, slowly unlocking the confined core little by little. Before long, Leia's DNA is fully released. Its shape closely resembles that of plant cells. This instantly reminds Vesper of the seed she had stolen. She hurriedly takes out a seed to dilute it, then uses a pipette to drop the diluted liquid onto the deciphered DNA sequence. Moments later, another astonishing thing occurs. The seed cells perfectly merge with Leia's DNA, forming a completely new and whole entity. This discovery means that Leia's DNA shares the same genetic sequence as the seed. Unknowingly, Vesper has found the key to unlocking the castle's seeds. This indicates that the seeds, once broken free from their cocoons, will no longer just grow for one generation and then die. The poor will no longer suffer from hunger. It turns out that all of this was Leia's father's meticulous plan. He intended to exchange the deciphered sequence of the seeds for an opportunity to enter another castle. Ernst hoped Leia would take her daughter to live in another castle. However, Vesper firmly tells her father that she will never leave him. She only wants to unlock all the seeds in her hand. So the next morning, Vesper hurriedly rushes to the secret laboratory, planning to obtain more filters. At this moment, Jonas pays a visit. He sees Leia's clothes and instantly realizes she is another passenger from the spaceship. During their conversation, Jonas notices that the woman before him lacks the usual arrogance of those from the castle. Out of suspicion, Jonas brushes Leia's hair aside. Sure enough, he discovers the unique mark of the Yog people. Leia tries to use her abilities to put Jonas into a deep sleep, but she is grabbed by the throat by him. Although Jonas doesn't understand Leia's intentions, her drastically different behavior is clearly suspicious. Just at that critical moment, Vesper returns. Without hesitation, she raises her dagger and rushes towards Jonas, but Jonas slaps her away. Then, Leia is thrown against the wall. However, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, and with the support of a drone, Jonas is quickly subdued by Vesper and Leia. Once everyone's emotions stabilize, Vesper lowers her weapon and decides to make a deal with her uncle. She then takes Jonas to the laboratory, confessing that she can unlock the castle's seeds, and uses mycelium to treat Jonas's wounds simply. Vesper has already solved the crucial food problem for the poor. They no longer need to engage in blood trades with the castle. However, Vesper underestimates the greed of human nature. After Jonas returns home, he immediately uses a communicator to inform the castle of Leia's whereabouts and Vesper's secret. At this time, Vesper is working on cracking the gene sequence of the seeds. Meanwhile, her father catches sight of a strange light wave quickly approaching the house from the window. In the next moment, a pale yellow fungus rapidly spreads throughout the room. Vesper quickly shuts the door to her father's room, and uses a blanket to seal the gap at the bottom of the door. But the speed at which the fungus spreads is astonishing. In the blink of an eye, it fills the entire room. The two can only climb onto the table to avoid, but this still cannot stop the yellow fungus's rampage. Just as the space beneath their feet grows smaller, and they're about to fall into despair, the fungus suddenly transforms into dust. The father quickly reminds the two to hold their breath. Only then do they escape disaster by luck. The father explains that this is a biological weapon used by the castle for searches. Their whereabouts have already been exposed, and this is merely a test. The father urges Leia and his daughter to leave quickly. He plans to stay behind to buy them some time, but Vesper is determined not to leave her father behind, saying that she will return the seeds to them. However, the father knows in his heart that the moment his daughter unlocks the seeds, she will have triggered the castle's taboos. Once discovered, everyone's lives will be in danger. This undoubtedly shakes the very foundation of the castle. He can only use his past identity as a castle soldier to comfort his daughter. The castle wouldn't trouble a person who has fought bravely for it and was left disabled. As long as she waits for the castle people to leave, she can come back. After much hesitation, Vesper finally agrees to leave temporarily. After reporting this to the castle, Jonas begins to feel uneasy. It isn't until he realizes someone has intruded into the farm that he hurriedly goes out to check. Only then does he realize he made the wrong choice. The castle soldiers shoot Jonas dead without even saying a word. Meanwhile, another team of soldiers bursts into Ernst's room. Paralyzed in bed, Ernst sees the soldiers before him transform into pale skeletons. At the brink of life and death, Ernst controls a drone to fly towards the fuel tank, resolutely waiting for an attack. With a loud bang, the house is instantly engulfed in fire. This was Ernst's way of buying time for his daughter. Looking at the distant flames, Vesper desperately wants to rush back to find her father, but she is pulled back by Leia. It turns out Ernst had made arrangements long ago. He instructed Leia to take Vesper and hide first. After they are safe, they would head to the southern castle to seek shelter, but fate didn't let them off. Soon, the two were caught up by their pursuers. As they passed through a patch of red grass, Vesper hurriedly warns Leia not to touch the red grass. It hides fireflies that are highly aggressive. Before they could catch their breath, another soldier arrives in pursuit. Seeing the fireflies crawling out from his fallen comrade's body, the soldier carefully maneuvers around the red grass. At this moment, Vesper throws a stick into the grass, then lies down on the ground. Instantly, dozens of flickering red fireflies burst out, charging toward the soldier in a deadly assault. After temporarily escaping danger, the two continue their flight, but the long wailing sound behind them rings out again. Leia knows that these soldiers are difficult to deal with. To protect Vesper, she uses her red lips to release a sleeping potion, putting Vesper into a deep sleep. Then she actively approaches the soldiers. The next day, Vesper slowly awakens, covered by leaves. Seeing that no one is beside her, she understands that Leia chose to leave to save her. Then Vesper returns home, disheartened and lost. The house before her is nothing but ruins. She slowly kneels down, takes out the deciphered seeds from her bag, and digs 3 holes in the ground, then solemnly plants the seeds. At this moment, footsteps suddenly sound around her. Vesper swiftly draws her military knife, ready for anything, only to find it is the 4 surviving children from the farm. Without a word, Vesper turns and walks away. The 4 children silently follow behind her. In this apocalyptic world, following the strong is an instinct for survival. At this moment, Vesper also doesn't know where to go, until she sees a pilgrim in the wilderness. This reminds her of a conversation she had with her father. She must find out one day where the pilgrim takes the garbage, so Vesper has a new goal. She sets out on a long journey with the 4 children, following the pilgrim. As they travel across mountains and valleys, Vesper gradually accepts the children. She makes fires to keep them warm, and carries the baby as they move forward with difficulty. After what seems like an eternity, they finally reach the pilgrim's stronghold. A towering, wooden tower stands before them. Many pilgrims are gathered around. One pilgrim rings a brass bell. Everyone stops what they're doing and quietly watches them. Vesper looks at the high tower. A strong desire to explore surges within her. She decides to climb to the top of the tower to find out. Upon reaching the top, Vesper sees a magnificent landscape she has never seen before. In the distance, the castle she has longed for appears hazily. Vesper slowly takes out the seeds that break the genetic shackles, and opens her palm to the gentle breeze. The seeds scatter far away with the wind. Facing the rising sun, Vesper feels a sense of clarity in her heart. She completely abandons her fantasies about the castle. At this moment, she's determined to sow the seeds of hope with her own hands, to create a beautiful future for herself and the children. The film ends here. The film constructs a wasteland world of ecological collapse. Genetically mutated creatures roam freely. The girl struggles to survive in a harsh environment. The film belongs to the biopunk genre. The production design and sound effects are outstanding. It uniquely presents the struggles of humanity through its setting and narrative, and provokes thought on issues related to a technological society. It is a science fiction masterpiece that offers both visual impact and depth of thought. Interested friends can check out the original film Vesper. If you like the channel, please subscribe to it.